Fresh off Super Bowl weekend, it is Monday, ladies and gentlemen, and you're back, locked and loaded. Brand new week, fresh energy, new material on what is the hottest show on the streets, best form of Alabama football news, notes, and information you are going to find anywhere. That being, in my own words, the podcast with yours truly, Stephen Smith of Touchdown Alabama Magazine. And as always, people, we encourage you to drop a thumbs up, a like on the show, and subscribe. That tells us at TDA to continue pumping you out, supplying you the best in news, notes, and information on your Crimson Tide program. The network here on YouTube, because of you, the passionate Tide fan, over 8,000, that's right, over 8,000 subscribers strong. We got a great show planned out for you today, a great list of segments. We'll start this thing off by diving into Alabama men's basketball taking a loss on last week, but Nate Oates still got the team in the right direction. From there, we'll look at, of course, recapping the Super Bowl, trio of Crimson Tide players able to help the Kansas City Chiefs take out the San Francisco 49ers. We'll jump from that to my man, Josh Jacobs. Did the NFL get this right? Or did the NFL get this wrong in terms of Josh Jacobs not winning the NFL Rookie of the Year award? From that, we'll bounce into the defensive alpha dogs, the defensive alpha personalities that Alabama will need to step up in the upcoming season. And then the boy, the man, Bryce Young at quarterback. We will wrap things up with him in that segment. But starting this off here with some updates, Alabama men's basketball did take on the Arkansas Razorbacks on last week inside Coleman Coliseum. Despite 28 points from Jaden Shackelford, the freshman, and a couple of other guys getting into double figures, Alabama fell 82-78, dropping to 12-9. On the year, 4-4 in Southeastern Conference play. Now, I still think Nate Oates is the guy to get this done. Just going to take him some time. I still see Alabama more than likely possibly having that shot to get into the NCAA tournament. It's got to go on a run, and it will start this week against Tennessee. But Alabama taking a fall 82-78 to Arkansas in basketball. When you look at the Super Bowl over the weekend, we were blessed by a very entertaining second half. Didn't get a chance to watch the halftime show. Didn't get a chance to watch the entire Super Bowl. Was having a meal there with my family. But what I did catch, especially in the fourth quarter, 49ers were up 20-10, but Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs found a way to get back into the football game and ultimately win the matchup 31-20. And for the first time in my life, I felt bad that I did not put some money on this game. I mean, the score prediction I had on last Friday, if y'all remember, the score prediction I had was 32-21 in favor of the Chiefs, 32-21. The final score was 31-20, and I can just hear my uncle's voice ringing in the back of my head going, "Pimp Juice, if you would have put some money on this, we could have been doing something. We could have been had some cash flow." I'm sorry, Unc. My bad. I let you down. Don't come at me. It ain't my problem. I'm not trying to lose money. But in that regard, could have won some money there. But on a positive note, there was a trio of Tide players that helped the Kansas City Chiefs get this done. A big shout out to Reggie Ragland at linebacker, Derek Dieter at wide receiver, despite him being on the practice squad, and former Alabama cornerback who works in the player engagement development department for the Chiefs, that being Ramsey Bino Robinson. All three of these guys represented the University of Alabama in a first-class way, and all three were a part of helping the Chiefs get the Super Bowl title in Super Bowl 54. Reggie Ragland was a linebacker at Alabama. He was the SEC's Defensive Player of the Year in 2015, led the team in tackles that year with 102, got the team to the College Football Playoff National Championship. Derek Dieter spent 1 year at Alabama, 2016, but he caught 4 touchdown passes that year and helped the Tide get to an SEC championship. And Ramsey Bino Robinson played before Saban got here from 2002 to 2006 and is part of the Chiefs organization. So big ups to all three of those individuals. But we dive now into the first topic of conversation, that being one Josh Jacobs, the running back for the Oakland Raiders, or now the Las Vegas Raiders, since the team is moving to Las Vegas. And the question right now is, did the NFL get this right? We question God all the time, and God allows us to question him. That's why he has the come let us reason together ordeal. So, did the NFL get this right in terms of the NFL honor ceremony that took place on Saturday before the Super Bowl over the weekend on Sunday? We were entertained by an incredible Super Bowl, but the NFL honor ceremony, if a lot of fans, NFL media guys, and media guys like myself, with our heads scratching, because I understand this is a quarterback's league. I get it, okay? I get that, especially with the NFL changing so many rules to help the quarterback position out. You can't hit the guy too high. You can't hit the guy too low. If he slides and you hit him, he's a defensive player. You can get fined for that. So a lot of the rules have been changed to help the quarterbacks out. That position controls the market in terms of contracts, in terms of funds, money, trade clause. Quarterback can pretty much write his own ticket. At some point, between Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers, one of those two is going to be the first $200 million quarterback. I'm calling it right now. One of them two is going to get it. Me personally, I would love to just have $1 million. You know what? Bump that. Give a pimp $500,000. I'm good. But between Aaron Rodgers and Pat Mahomes, one of those two is going to be the first $200 million quarterback. So the quarterbacks, the rules have been bent to help them. They control the market in terms of money, in terms of finances and contracts. And number three, people want to see NFL owners, coaches, general managers, they want to see more of these quarterbacks work, more of these quarterbacks pan out in the league. And that's the reason why in years past, you would have 20 quarterbacks get drafted, right? 10 would be great and 10 would flop. And people got tired of the half and half ordeal. Did I get a quarterback that hit, or did I get a quarterback that's not going to pan out? And of course, these coaches want to see more of these quarterbacks work at the next level coming out of college. So what they did was they got more of these hotshot, young, innovative minds from college, and they brought them into the NFL and said, okay, the offense that you ran in college, can that same thing work in the professional game? Because if it can, we want you to run this in our league to help more of these quarterbacks blossom, to have more of these quarterbacks have success, to have more of these quarterbacks pop up, or pop out, as I should say, in the National Football League. So they change the rules, they control the money in terms of the contracts, dictate the market, and more hotshot offensive minds are trying to help these quarterbacks work. And despite all of what I've just said, at the end of the day, people like yourselves, the fans of football, the supporters of football, the NFL media pundits, me personally as a media guy, we still want things done the right way. We still want the right objective. We still want the right aspect, despite, the things stated above that I just mentioned. And regardless of how talented Kyler Murray is, he's talented, he's gifted, he's good. I ain't hating the brother. No shade, no palm trees on my end of the woods. But despite his athletic abilities, Kyler Murray was awarded the NFL's Rookie of the Year, and I think it was just highway robbery. I think the NFL got this wrong. I think Josh Jacobs got flat out snubbed. Got flat out snubbed for Rookie of the Year. And I'm going to go into why he got flat out snubbed. First and foremost, Josh Jacobs, the 24th overall pick in the 2019 draft to these Raiders. Josh Jacobs had his team, the Raiders, flirting with the opportunity to make the AFC playoffs. Kyler Murray and the Cardinals had no way of sniffing the postseason. They couldn't even get a whiff of the postseason. The Cardinals finished at 5-10-1. They had no way of whiffing the postseason, sniffing it. in terms of Josh Jacobs, he had the Raiders with an opportunity to at least sniff the AFC playoffs. If you look at the AFC and the NFC, both conferences here, 6 teams per conference make the playoffs. You have your 4 divisional winners in each of the 2 conferences and your 2 wild card teams from each of the 2 conferences. So 6 from this side, 6 from that side, 12 in all. We all sort of get that there. Now, in terms of the Raiders, despite finishing at 7-9, the Raiders, for much of the season, they hovered around the 7-8 spot in terms of the playoffs, the 7-8 spot. So if not for Josh Jacobs getting hurt, had a leg issue, and if either the Titans, I love you, Derrick Henry, if either the Titans or the Steelers could have dropped a game or two, the Raiders would have definitely made the playoffs. So Josh Jacobs has his team flirting with a potential chance of making the playoffs. Kyler Murray had his team no way sniffing the playoffs. So that's the first one. The second one here, Josh Jacobs set a franchise record, and he finished in the top 10 at his respective position in the NFL in terms of yards for running backs. Kyler Murray did neither of those 2 things. Josh Jacobs became the first rookie running back in Raiders history to post a 1,000-yard season. Jacobs a season ago, 242 carries for 1,150 yards and 7 touchdowns. His 1,150 yards also had him finished 8th in the top 10, 8th in the NFL among running backs. So set the franchise record, finished in the top 10 in the NFL in his positional group. Also, Jacobs had 5 100-yard games rushing this past season, and he was a 2-time AFC Offensive Rookie of the Month for the months of October and November. When you look at Kyler Murray finished the 2019 season with 3,722 passing yards. Not bad, 3,722. But he did not finish in the top 10. He finished at number 15, and he did not set a franchise record. So no franchise record for Kyler Murray. He was not in the top 10 at his respective position at quarterback. Josh Jacobs did both of those things. And then third and lastly here, Josh Jacobs made Raiders football exciting. I am not a Raiders fan. I'll be the first to say that. I used to be a diehard Indianapolis Colts fan, but Jim Irsay messed me over. If you're hearing me, Jim Irsay, I called you out. You messed me over. But when you look at the Raiders, not a Raiders fan, the last time I watched a good bit of Raiders football would have to be when Rich Gannon was playing, and that was back in the early 2000s. But this season, whether it was Sunday night football, Monday night football, Thursday night football, I found myself watching the Oakland Raiders and why Josh Jacobs made it just that darn entertaining. I mean, he embodied the spirit of John Gruden, the swagger of John Gruden, the heart of John Gruden, the toughness of the head coach. Not too many people embody the crazy man in John Gruden. Not too many people do that. Josh Jacobs did that. And on top of all this, he made it entertaining with less superstar names around him. How many superstar names, people, can you name that play for the Oakland Raiders not named Derek Carr and Josh Jacobs? I'll wait. Can't name one, can you? Because there's not too many of them. When you look at the Cardinals, aside from Kyler Murray, you got David Johnson, Kenyon Drake, Pharaoh Cooper, Christian Kirk, Larry, the legend, Fitzgerald, who, by the way, is entering his 17th year in the NFL. Oh, and how could I forget the great Charles Clay at tight end? How could I forget him? You got all those guys, and yet Arizona could only win 5 games. And then not to mention, you got the Wizard. You got the mastermind. You got Yoda. You got Han Solo. You got one of the more innovative minds at head coach in Cliff Kingsbury. And you can only go 5, 10, and 1. But yet, Josh Jacobs, the Raiders. Not many superstar names. They got Hunter Renfrow for crying out loud. And Hunter Renfrow spent, what, a century at Clemson? Oh, he spent like 100 years over there. But, I mean, the Raiders don't have a lot of superstar names. But yeah, with Josh Jacobs, that team was one of the more entertaining teams in the NFL. You had to watch them because of what Josh Jacobs was able to do with the football, with how that team was able to come together around him, and how they embodied with him the persona of one John Gruden. So there it is right there. Josh Jacobs, my 3 reasons once again. Number 1, Josh Jacobs had the Raiders flirting with the playoffs. Kyler Murray did not have the Cardinals sniffing the playoffs. Number 2, Josh Jacobs finished with setting a franchise record and also was in the top 10 at his position in the NFL. Kyler Murray did none of those 2 things. And number 3, Josh Jacobs had Raider football just really fun and entertaining to watch. Kyler Murray, I'll be honest with you, I did not find Cardinals football entertaining. Now, Kenyon Drake was fun, but the Cardinals as a whole, not that entertaining. But yet, folks, we live in a quarterback league, a quarterback world, where the quarterback's like Burger King. He can have it his way. Still, at the end of the day, you want things done the right way, and the right way was not done. Folks, 205-448-1358. The number once again, 205-448-1358 to call and let your voice be heard or in my own words. If you feel the way I do, if you feel like bruh man Josh Jacobs was just robbed, they just put sugar in his gas tank and robbed him, call and let your voice be heard. We're going to take a break right now. When we come back to the action, we will dive into defensive players that got to step up for the Crimson Tide.
Every sports fan deserves the proper representation. Whitwell Sports introduces to you the Title Towel. Wave that Title Towel in the air like you just don't care in support of Nick Saban and the Alabama Crimson Tide. Only $9.99 and it lasts a lifetime. Head on over to whitwellsports.com and get your Title Towel today.
Back inside the conversation on In My Own Words with yours truly, Stephen Smith. And before we jump into the next topic of conversation, we got a call in the queue right now. You're live with yours truly, Stephen M. Smith on In My Own Words. What's on your mind tonight?
Hello, Mr. Stephen. How are you doing tonight?
I can't complain. Blessed here. Enjoyed the Super Bowl. Probably should have put some money on that game, but my uncle's mad with me right now.
Don't worry about that, brother. My name is Benjamin. I'm calling you from Lynchburg, Virginia. I just love your program. I just love your attitude. I just love your heart. I can hear the sound of Jesus in your heart. You're a great guy.
I appreciate it. What's on your mind?
Well, on my mind, I was thinking about the upcoming National Signing Day. Do you think that Zachary Evans might be coming to play for Alabama anytime?
I don't think Zachary Evans is coming. I would like for Alabama to get him, but I think after he had made the move to go to Georgia, now he did pull out of that move, but when Zach Evans made that move to want to commit to Georgia, I believe Alabama backed off of him, and they went to try to pursue the Jace McClellan kid out of Texas. Didn't think Alabama was going to get him, but ended up getting him. So at this point, I just don't see Alabama getting Zach Evans.
Right. Yes, he kind of reminds me of like Mark Ingram type. He's got that built body like Zach does, kind of like Mark Ingram. He's pretty big, like a big-time player. He's pretty good.
I like him. Zach Evans has a lot of ability. He's got speed in the open space. He can run between the tackles. I kind of see the Mark Ingram comparison you're going with there. He's built low to the ground. Very shifty type guy, and a type guy that Nick Saban definitely could use. I just feel like when he made that move to, I guess, pursue Georgia a bit more, Alabama felt like, well, we may not be able to get him. Let's back off of him and try to target somebody else. So, right now, Alabama potentially is looking at having 7 running backs on the roster. So at this point, they're not going to be able to get Zach Evans.
No, but I have to tell you, this is my first time calling your program and talking to you. I am so glad I got to have the first time the ability to talk to you. You're a great guy. I want to pray for you and for your family.
Appreciate you calling, man. Keep listening to the show.
I love your program, and also, you're very funny with your comments or what you said about LSU, all that stuff. You're really funny.
All right, man. Appreciate you.
Likewise, and may the Lord be with you. I hope you have a restful night.
All right. We got first caller coming in, just commenting on Zach Evans, but we got another call coming into the queue right now. You're live on In My Own Words, the podcast with Stephen Smith. What's on your mind?
What's going on, Stephen? Love the show, man. Very good content. Question I have for you, Stephen, is looking back at last year. I know it was one of the rougher years for Alabama. Even so, we only lost 2 games. Do you think Alabama's ranking at the end of the year was justified? I feel like they just put so many teams ahead of us, that on neutral field, obviously we will beat them. Being the only team that challenged LSU, really should have won that game if it wasn't for a couple of bad calls.
Don't remind me of that.
I just personally don't feel like our ranking was deserved. How low they put us this year.
I thought the ranking of 13 or between 12 and 13, one of those 2 spots there, I thought it was very low. Just due to, if you look at it, Alabama's combined 2 losses came on 8 points, which was the fewest of combined losses. And if you look at it, if not for some penalties, some blown calls, especially against LSU and Auburn by the officiating staff, among other things, Alabama could have very easily won both of those 2 football games. And to some degree, you wonder how much football did this particular college football playoff committee actually watch? Because to have Georgia still in the top 5, and Georgia had an embarrassing loss to an unranked South Carolina at home in one of the worst games of Jake Fromm's career. He had 3 picks in that game, but to have Georgia ranked high, to have Florida ranked high, and they had some losses, to have Auburn ranked high, and Auburn had 3 losses. I mean, it really didn't make any sense. Just seeing how I go back to, you mentioned Alabama challenged LSU. It stood toe-to-toe to LSU. And if you remove a Tua Tagovailoa fumble, a Tua Tagovailoa interception, Alabama basically beats LSU, because if Alabama scores on that first drive, LSU is playing catch-up from the get-go. So I understand exactly what you're saying. I just look at the rating was very low, and if a couple of things would have bounced the right way, especially some calls from the officiating staff, it would have been different.
Definitely. I agree 100%. I agree 100%. Love the show, Stephen. I'm just going to keep watching you, man. Love what you're doing.
Appreciate the call, man. Keep vibing with us.
Definitely.
Had a good thought there in terms of, Alabama, the 2019 final rankings there. I thought Alabama was ranked a little bit lower than usual, but once again, I go back to my point of, did this college football playoff committee actually watch football, or did they just trust everything that was said by Heather Dinich? We'll never know. So we're going to continue with the conversation here as we're about to get into the alpha personalities that Alabama needs on defense, or the alpha personalities that Alabama must have rise on defense. And funny story, JP. Funny story I got for you right now, man. I'm at the Alabama basketball game and on last week. I was somebody's +1, which was pretty cool. And Crimson Tide loses to the Arkansas Razorbacks by a score of 82-78. I get back on the bus, And as I'm on the bus with a bunch of Alabama fans, the conversation just immediately flips to football. And I'm talking about the defense and how excited I am about the defense and different players coming back. And immediately, there was this guy that's sitting next to his son. The guy's probably between 40 and 50 years old. His son's about 8 to 9 years old. And the guy was like, well, dude, I just hope Bama gets a different defensive coordinator next year or this upcoming year because the guy we have sucks, man. He just sucks. I have never seen a defense look that bad. And I've been a fan since the Paul Bear Bryant days, and that defense, I didn't want to come to that with a 10-foot pole. That defense couldn't hold water. That defense couldn't hold $1 million in a paper sack. That defense just stunk to high heaven. God could not help that defense. That's how this man was talking. So he's like, I hope we get another coordinator. And while he's talking, his son's going, Daddy, are we going to get another defensive coordinator? And Dad goes, well, Junior, I don't know. It's all up to Nick Saban. I don't know. Daddy, why can't we get a new one? The guy we have sucks. And in my mind, I'm thinking, I pray Pete Golden is not on this bus right now. But to end all with that right there, I mean, so more than just the coaching staff, you got to have the players to hold that type of leadership, to be those alpha personalities. And we're going to be the guys that have to step up and speak and talk and really take command, really take ownership of a defense, this year. And the three guys that I personally, had in mind, and if you have a thought, you can call in 205-448-1358. But the three guys I have in mind, Dylan Moses, Christian Barmore, and Patrick Surtain. But before we dive more into that, we're going to go to our next break here on In My Own Words.
If you want delicious home-style cooking, sushi, and hibachi, check out Otoro Hibachi in the University Mall in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. At home and you can't get away from the TV because the Crimson Tide is about to score? Don't worry, delivery is also available through Waitr and Crimson2go. That's Otoro Hibachi in the University Mall in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. And make sure you let them know the good folks at Touchdown Alabama sent you.
If you have just stumbled upon the program and you're wondering what in the world is going on, you are locked and loaded on the hottest show on the streets, best form of Crimson Tide football news, notes, and information. That being, In My Own Words, the podcast with yours truly, Stephen Smith of Touchdown Alabama magazine. And we have embarked upon the topic of who must be, or who has to be, the alpha personalities on the Alabama defense in the 2020 season, this season coming up here in the fall. And for me, the three guys that I look at, and of course, if you have a thought, 205-448-1358, the number to call in to let your voice be heard, 205-448-1358. You can also tweet the show at In My Own Words TDA. You can tweet me personally at Coaching M. Smith. You can also drop your thoughts, questions, concerns on our chat line via YouTube. But the three personalities I look at that have to be alpha personalities, Dylan Moses, of course, at linebacker, inside linebacker, the junior out of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, the former five-star recruit who did not lose his junior year due to him not playing the entire 2019 season because of a knee injury. But having him back, and having him anchor the middle of a defense, and having him get the calls communicated across the board, having him, make those tackles, get everything set up, making sure everybody's in the right spot, on the right note, in the right key. It is highly important for him. Now, he's not the biggest talker in the world, but when he gets around his brothers, his energy level goes up. When he gets around his brothers, his voice perks up. When he gets around his brothers, he becomes a completely different guy than what he is around the media, myself included, though he does talk a lot more when it comes to me, but when he's on the field, completely different cat. And you need him to be the guy to make sure that everybody knows exactly what they're doing. So Dylan Moses is definitely one of the alpha personalities that needs to happen. Number two, I go to the defensive line, and while a lot of people would feel like LeBron Ray needs to be that alpha male personality on the defensive line, and I would agree. He's got the leadership. He's one of the older guys. He's one of the guys that has a lot of experience. The former 5-star from Madison, Alabama, played at James Clemens High School. While I would agree with the likes of LeBron Ray, I'm going to go with the defensive line personality to be the alpha male is Christian Barmore. Christian Barmore is somebody of whom, even though he's one of the younger guys growing up, he's a guy that everybody respects. When he speaks, he gives so much energy to the entire team. And I got a chance to speak with guys like Anthony Jennings, Terrell Lewis, Jalen Waddle, Jarrett Maiden, just a number of guys a season ago in interviews, and they all just kept talking about how, Barmore's passionate, Barmore wants to play, Barmore's a dog, Barmore is somebody that you go to bat for. He the guy that you're going to be right in the cut with. If you going to go to war, you're going with Christian Barmore. And they spoke so highly of this young man as he totaled 6 tackles for loss a season ago, 2 sacks, 5 quarterback hurries, made the All-Southeastern Conference freshman team. And he was a guy that it bothered him when he was not on the field. And those are the type of guys you got to have. Those are the guys that were meant to be alpha personalities. When they're not on the field, it bothers the crap out of them. And for Christian Barmore, there would be some games where he would be on kind of my side of the press box, so to speak, and I would watch him on the sidelines in just complete agony and anxiety. Like he would be just jumping up and down, just begging to get on the field. And the coaching staff wouldn't look at him. They didn't pay him any attention. And the agony would get bigger and bigger, and the frustration and the anxiety. It would just be like, if you don't put me on this field, I'm going to take a blowtorch to somebody's dome. I mean, he was going off. And it took different teammates to kind of go to the sidelines, console him, calm him down, but he wants it that bad. And for Alabama's defense to get back to what we're known for it to be, or what we have seen it being prior to the last 2 years, is having those guys on the field that want it more than anybody else. And Christian Barmore is one of those guys that just wants it more than anybody else. He would be the second alpha personality that you want to see take over in the upcoming season. The third personality, I would go to the secondary, and I would pick up Patrick Surtain II. Now, of course, Alabama would have Josh Jobe. It would have Jalen Armour-Davis. It would have Jordan Battle, DeMarco Helms, Daniel Wright, Eddie Smith, Scooby Carter, Marcus Banks, just a litany of guys in that secondary that will play and that will get a lot of opportunities, including some of the young freshmen coming into the fold here. But for me, the reason why I would choose Patrick Surtain II is this is his moment to kind of have a voice and bounce back from the year he had a season ago. Now, despite Alabama having more seniors and juniors in that defensive secondary in 2019 with Trayvon Diggs and Jarrett Maiden and Xavier McKinney and Shyheim Carter, I'll be honest with you, that secondary did not like to talk last year. That was one of the more quieter secondaries I've ever seen. And I kind of got a beat on that even when those guys were in interviews. Shyheim Carter, low voice, didn't like to talk a lot. Trayvon Diggs, low voice, kind of reserved in the media, didn't like to talk a lot. Jarrett Maiden would talk some, but didn't like to talk a lot. Even Patrick Surtain, kind of low voice, kind of standoffish, didn't like to talk a lot. And when you're in the secondary, you got to talk. And that was the reason why you had so many open holes in coverage. You had so many blown coverages, teams attacking the middle of the field, teams attacking the middle of the zone. Guys could not follow their right assignments because nobody was talking. The only one that was talking was Xavier McKinney, and you could hear X from the freaking parking lot. I mean, he's sitting there yelling to high heaven, trying to get guys in the right spots, get guys following their read, their cues, their plays. And as much as I respect Xavier McKinney, and I do, and I hope he goes to a great, NFL franchise, because this guy did it all last season, and I am still befuddled by the fact that Grant Delpit won the Thorpe Award last year. Yes, I'm not over it. Grant Delpit, who had less tackles than X, less tackles for loss than X, less interceptions than X, probably less pass breakups than X. X McKinney filled out the entire stat sheet, and yet that man still got snubbed for Jim Thorpe. To this day, will not understand why that man was not a finalist for that award. But I digress from that statement. I hope he goes to a great NFL team. But just getting back to this, you got to have guys that are going to talk in the secondary. And Patrick Surtain II, after having a good freshman year, yes, he got burned a bit by CeeDee Lamb against Oklahoma in the Capital One Bowl, even though Alabama won that game. And yes, he got picked on quite a bit against Clemson in the 2019 College Football Playoff National Championship game. But for the most part, Patrick Surtain had a good freshman year. 2019, I was expecting him to take that next step forward, really become more confident, really become more of a factor in terms of his technique, in terms of his coverage, his playing style and coverage, his ability to be in phase and guarding, defending these wide receivers, but don't be too physical, his ability to break on the ball, create turnovers, be the full package guy, take that next step. A lot of people always say that the biggest jump for collegiate athletes is between their freshman and sophomore year. So in my mind, it's Surtain, strong freshman year. He's going to have an even better sophomore year. But sometimes I think he took a step back just due to got called for quite a few pass interference flags, though some of those calls were weak calls, going back to Alabama and the Southeastern Conference as a whole had a bit better officiating. Maybe the season would have ended on a better note, but hey, I'm not the guys in pinstripes. I'm not the SEC front office in Birmingham. I'm just Stephen M. Smith providing you, the fans, the best in news, notes, and information. That's what I'm doing here. So, to me, there were moments where Surtain took a step back, was called for some flags. There were moments where guys got the better of him. There were moments where he was not in perfect phase, did not have the best coverage. He got beat at times. I still think he needs to put on some more muscle in the upper body. He's got to get a little bit bigger, a little bit thicker there in the waistline. And a young man has got to trust his technique. His father, Patrick Surtain Sr., played a lot in the NFL. Played for the Miami Dolphins, played for the Kansas City Chiefs, and had a phenomenal career as a corner. He has taught his son a lot. He has worked out with his son. He has gone through the game tape with his son. So there are things that Surtain knows. There are things that Surtain has been made aware of. It's just now, as he enters his junior year, this is the money year for him, he's got to put it completely all together. He's got to become a total package, and he's got to talk. He's got to make sure everybody around him is in the right spot. Whether it's him talking, whether it's Josh Jobe talking, whether it's Jalen Armour-Davis talking, or Daniel Wright, or Eddie Smith, or DeMarco Hellams, or Jordan Battle. I don't care who the mixture of 4, 5, 6 guys Nick Saban puts on that field. It don't matter to me. My thing is, these mouths got to open. Y'all got to talk. Because the last thing this fan base wants to see is a repeat of 2019 where people are caught in no man's land and the middle of the field is wide open, or people are caught in no man's land and the receiver blows by a defensive back, or people are caught in no man's land and we have a John Fulton situation from 2010, flashback to John Fulton, where he doesn't know what he's doing. So, secondary got to talk. But those are just my alpha males for the defense. We're going to go to another break here. When we return, we get some of your calls.
Touchdown Alabama Magazine is Alabama football's premier publication. A subscription to Touchdown Alabama Magazine is the perfect gift for any Alabama fan. For exclusive news and information, recruiting updates, a free annual print magazine, and more, go to touchdownalabama.com and click join. Only $5.95 per month or pay $49.95 for a full year subscription. That's a saving of almost $22. Make sure to subscribe before it's too late and get our new freshly printed end of the year magazine issue. Go to touchdownalabama.com today and roll Tide.
We're back in to the conversation known as, in my own words, the podcast. Yours truly, Stephen Smith of Touchdown Alabama Magazine. Once again, folks, if you have a thought on who would be your alpha males or alpha personalities defensively, you can call 205-448-1358. The number again, 205-448-1358 for those alpha male personalities. But now, we dive into the conversation that people have been waiting on. Bryce Young conversation. Bryce Young. Going back to the trip I had getting back on the bus from Alabama basketball and talking to the number of fans that I spoke with, conversation jumped on quarterback. So somebody said, hey, do you think it's going to be the quarterback next season? And of course I mentioned Mac Jones, but then I said I'm excited for the potential that Bryce Young has. By the time I got the word young out of my mouth, the guy's like, man, I can't wait to see Bryce Young, man. That kid gonna be a beast. That kid gonna be a monster. He gonna set the whole world. Ain't that the kid from California that had the Great All-American Bowl? Yeah, him. That kid, you ain't gonna be able to stop that kid. He gonna be smoking everybody out. And of course, I was also next to a young lady who's possibly a student on campus. She was like, oh, he cute too. I want to see Bryce Young go out here and slang the rock and do his thing. Like, Bryce Young, if you want to call me, hey, call me, Bryce Young. But then people are excited about Bryce Young. People are very excited for Bryce Young, and for obvious reasons. 5-star from California. He started his career off at Cathedral High School in Los Angeles, California, before transferring to the powerhouse Mater Dei High School in Santa Ana, California. Had a solid high school career, over 13,000 passing yards, he had 152 total touchdowns in his career, and a guy that his high school coaching staff was very proud of him. Alabama, Nick Saban has mentioned this, that he absolutely loves this young man, loves the talent, loves the character, loves the charisma, loves the ability, loves the family he comes from, just made up of the right stuff. This comes from Nick Saban. And Steve Sarkisian went through a lot of resources to make sure that Alabama was able to land Bryce Young in this class. Young right now currently one of 13 early enrollees, and he's been leading the freshman group through the fourth quarter weight training program under Alabama's director of strength and conditioning, that being Scott Cochran. But the question everybody wants to know, can Bryce Young, or will Bryce Young unseat Mac Jones to be the number one starting quarterback for the Crimson Tide? Will Bryce Young be able to do this? And I mentioned on last week's show that I like the potential Bryce Young brings to the table. I like his arm. I like his personality. I like his athleticism. I like the fact that he is a true dual threat, because when a lot of people look at dual threat quarterbacks, they look at, okay, that boy can run a mile long, and that boy is elusive, and he's fast, and he's dynamic with his feet, but he can only throw a little bit, and they just put dual threat by his name because he can run well, but he can't really throw well, but they still call it a dual threat. That's not a dual threat. A dual threat is the ability to throw just as well or just as effective as you run, probably even more effective throwing, just due to you got to have these passes in the hands of receivers or these targets at that right time, accurate, precise, and anticipating those set throws, and Bryce Young can do those things. Now, for me, I go back to two aspects I mentioned on Bryce Young. Number one, because I want to see him when he gets here. I'm one of those cats that you can be great in high school, But just because you are great in high school does not necessarily mean you're going to translate over to the college game. Case in point, look at my man, Ben Davis. Look at my man, Ben Davis. Ben Davis was a beast in high school, was a beast at Gordo, was a freaking monster. His father was Wayne Davis, for Christ's sake, the all-time leader in tackles with 327 in school history. And we all thought Ben is going to come in, he going to blow the dough off this thing, man. Ben going to drop the coop off that top, man. Ben, bruh. And Ben, God bless his heart, man. Ben is having the worst time just trying to consistently stay on the field. So we can see right now, just because you are dynamic in high school does not automatically mean it will transition over to the college game. Bryce Young has not taken a college snap yet. We have at least seen Mac Jones take a few college snaps, more than a few. And he's actually done quite well for those who have been watching. I mean, Mac Jones, of course, he got a little bit nervous against Tennessee, but went out there, played well against Arkansas, played well against Auburn despite 2 pick sixes, played well against Michigan in the Citrus Bowl, and showed Steve Sarkisian, hey, even though the boy Tua Tagovailoa went down, I can slang that thing too. I'm Mac 10, baby. I'm a full and loaded assault rifle. Put me out there. I can do that too. I can cock and fire with the best of them. So Mac Jones went out there and was able to do that. But just getting back to Bryce Young, number one, will he be able to pick up what Steve Sarkisian is teaching him? And the good news about all of that is he ran an offense in high school that is similar, very similar to what Alabama is running with Coach Sark. So that's good news for Bryce Young. And then number two, how effectively, in a positive way, can he have the teammates around him going, Mac, I love you, bruh, but Bryce Young's my quarterback. Mac, I love you, bruh, but I want to block for Bryce Young. Mac, I love you, bruh, but I want Bryce Young handing me the football at the backfield. Mac, I love you, bruh, but I want Bryce Young throwing me the ball. So how quickly can he positively affect the players around him to where when he touches that field, everybody wants to see, and by everybody, I mean everybody in that football complex wants to see Bryce Young as the guy. He's got potential. He's got immense potential. And I understand people coming from this angle. Steven, if Alabama plays against a team that's going to score, hopefully this upcoming season, the defense is way better or much better to where it doesn't allow all the score. But if Alabama goes against a team that's giving up score, you got to have a quarterback that can keep up with that and keep Alabama within striking distance. And Bryce Young, to a lot of people, is that guy. And I understand that because you had that guy with Tua Tagovailoa just a season ago. But I go back to the point that I just mentioned here. Mac Jones proved he can run this offense. And I'll say this. I'll say this right here. Najee Harris came back for his senior season. He's coming back for his senior year. If Tua Tagovailoa would have came back for his senior year, I think Alabama would have lost Najee Harris to the NFL draft. And here's why. Najee Harris, yes, he got a 3rd to 4th round draft grade and was not happy about that, but he met up with some of the coaches. He met up with the coaching staff before he went home to California for a few days to be with his family. And in talking with the coaching staff, they sold Najee Harris on this. They said, Najee, if you come back to run the football, to be our main running back for 2020, we are going to give you every single opportunity to get the carries you want to get the yards you want to get the opportunities you want to get. Basically saying, if you come back, Najee Harris, we're making you the focal point of the offense. We're going to give you every shot to win the Heisman Trophy, and we're going to do this with Mac Jones at quarterback. They sold this to Najee Harris with Mac Jones being the guy. And the reason why they sold it with Mac being the guy is, and I'll put it to you like this. As great as Tua Tagovailoa was, as great as he was, a lot of people, Tua took some opportunities from Najee in a sense of Tua's mind was, well, I got to throw. If I got Judy open, if I got Ruggs open, if I got Waddle open, if I got Smitty open, I trust our guys over anything the opposition puts out there. I'm throwing the football. And that took chances away from Najee just due to when you have the lead, you got to lean on that opposing defense, get them tired, and have your defense rest some. So while Tua's go, Nick Saban is ball control, calm it down, rest our defense, weigh on their defense, and you got two strong personalities there kind of butting heads versus a Mac Jones. You would have the best of both worlds here. You would allow for an opportunity for Najee Harris to get his carries, get his opportunities, because the only game that Tua played in that Najee got his yards on the ground was against LSU, and it was LSU. You got to run Najee against LSU. Aside from that, the only time Najee's carries really climbed and went up was when, Mac Jones was running the show at the quarterback position. So they sold this offense on Najee being the focal point with Mac Jones at quarterback. But can Bryce Young do this? Can Bryce Young go out here in spring ball and unseat Mac Jones? Can Bryce Young come out here in spring ball and have Talia Tagovailoa thinking, I got to transfer out here. I got to get the heck out of here. Can Bryce Young come in here, spring ball, and have Paul Tyson thinking, I'm a legacy guy and I'm bigger than the name, but man, this Bryce Young kid is having me think different. Oh, can he do this? He's got the talent. He's got the ability. I'm excited to see him. Spring ball cannot get here fast enough because once March gets in here and once, of course, the media, myself, and other guys are able to go out there and get photos and videos and sound bites and player interviews and hear from Coach Saban, I want to see can Bryce Young do it. I want to see can Bryce Young do this thing. Because if he can do this thing, it's going to be very, very entertaining. But 205-448-1358, the number to call in, 205-448-1358. Do you think Bryce Young will unseat Mac Jones? And if he does, what game will he unseat Mac Jones? What time, what moment, and what situation? 205-448-1358, the number to call in, 205-448-1358. Do you think that Bryce Young will unseat Mac Jones? Or if you had a thought about your three guys that must be alpha male personalities on defense, if you thought that Josh Jacobs was robbed from being NFL Rookie of the Year, any of these three topics, 205-448-1358. But while you're getting your thoughts together, we're going to go to another break. We're coming back in my own words.
If you're an avid Alabama Crimson Tide fan and you love to flaunt it, then show your Alabama Crimson Tide support by grabbing the All-Bama sneakers. They feature bold Crimson Tide graphics, so no one will be able to question where your allegiance lies. When you add these sweet sneakers to your Alabama Crimson Tide collection, go to stsfootwear.com and use the code TDAlabama for $15 off your purchase. That's code TDAlabama for $15 off your purchase. Go to stsfootwear.com and get your All-Bama sneakers today.
As we're back in live from the break on the hottest show on the streets, in my own words, the podcast, yours truly, Stephen M. Smith. We got my man, Waylon Colburn, in the queue right now. Waylon, you're on the show, man.
How you doing this evening, Stephen?
Doing good, man. Probably should have put some money on that Super Bowl. My prediction was close, and my uncle's upset with me.
Well, yeah, you hit it pretty close there, I have to say. There's no doubt about it. I thought the 49ers would pull it out with the defense, but they had them. It was their game, and they let Kansas City slip back up on them. And you know what happens sometimes when you fall asleep, you get beat if you're not careful.
Now, Wayne, this has been a conversation all day, so I'm going to ask you, you watching this, do you think the Chiefs won, or do you think Kyle Shanahan overthought it and took his foot off the gas?
Well, San Francisco had the running game going. It was averaging about 6.5 yards a carry. And when you're gashing them like that and opening up holes, and then he tries to throw 3 or 4 or 5 passes in a row, and just like Troy Aikman said, go back and run the football. It's been working all day. They couldn't stop it. But I don't know what was on his mind. I didn't understand it. Shanahan, I'm going to have to put the blame at Shanahan's feet with this one. This is the second one, Stephen, that don't look good when he had might as well say a 2-score lead and blew it. Something's not right, you know.
Well, at the same time, he also had the lead as the Falcons offensive coordinator in that Super Bowl, and let that one against the Patriots get away there. But Wayne, first thought right here to you is, do you think that Bryce Young will unseat Mac Jones? And if you do, at what point do you think Bryce Young could unseat Mac Jones?
Well, I've watched a lot of these YouTube highlights when he was in high school. Tremendous athlete, no doubt about it. I thought he was a little bit bigger in stature, but they always say size doesn't matter. And a quarterback, we saw that in the past, but I would like to see maybe a little bigger, more physical quarterback. But I don't know if he'll unseat Mac or not. What I've been thinking, Stephen, is this. Just like you said a while ago before I called in, somebody's going into the transfer portal this season because they know they're not going to be able to compete because the quarterback room is full just like the running back room. Do you agree with me on that?
I do.
Okay, well, I've been thinking about this for several weeks since Bryce Young thought about coming in. Bryce, you've got Mac, you've got Tyson, you've got Tua's little brother. There's no way they can all play at Alabama before their time's up, I don't think. Somebody has to go somewhere, Stephen. And athletic-wise, yeah, Bryce could beat Mac out. Knowing all the playbooks, knowing everything and what's on Sarkisian's mind, Mac knows what's going on. There's no doubt about that. Few mistakes last year, but you throw him in there with very little reps. He done a great job. That's just the way it is. I don't know, Stephen. It's going to be a tight race. It's going to be a fist fight. It's going to be a 15-rounder, Stephen, I think.
Well, we'll see what happens when a spring ball comes in, but appreciate you calling, man. Keep listening to the show.
Well, show's always good. Glad to have you on every night you can be on. Always good talking to you. And we'll see. Spring football's right around the corner. It won't be long, and we'll see what happens, Stephen. Y'all have a blessed night, and we'll catch you again, okay?
Okay. Appreciate it, Waylon.
Okay.
Waylon calling in there, just giving some thoughts on Bryce Young. Doesn't think he can seat or unseat Mac Jones. We'll see what happens. Bryce Young's got some athleticism. He's got some capability. He's got some structure. But can he pick up what Sark's putting down? Can he be that guy to galvanize the team around him, number 2? And when he's put in situations where it's not peaches and cream, because in the SEC, you're going to get hit. In the Southeastern Conference, you are going to face adversity. Alabama's got LSU on the road this season. They've got Ole Miss on the road. God, I hate going to Oxford. They got Ole Miss on the road this season. You've got Tennessee on the road this season, and Pruitt and the Volunteers are supposed to be a bit better. And then week 3 of the year, you face Kirby Smart in Georgia. You don't know what to expect from those guys. So you're going to face some adversity. So if Bryce Young was to get in there and he faces an adverse situation, how will he be able to handle it? That's a big question there. That's a huge question there. But along with Bryce Young, and once again, folks, 205-448-1358, the number to call to be a part of In My Own Words, the podcast. 205-448-1358, and let your voice be heard. If Twitter is your thing, you can tweet the show at In My Own Words TDA. Once again, that's at In My Own Words TDA on Twitter. If tweeting me directly is for you, then hey, baby, do your thing. That's at Coaching M Smith on Twitter. Me directly at Coaching M Smith. We also have a great YouTube chat line for you to throw your thoughts and remarks in. But along with Bryce Young, there's a few other freshmen that are coming into this 2020 class. Nick Saban trying to bring in 27 guys, and of those guys not named Bryce Young, I'm just looking forward to seeing this Jamarian Latham kid on the defensive line out of Pickens County High School in Reform, Alabama. I know people don't have a lot of trust in 1A high school athletes because it's 1A, it's small, they don't have a lot of players. Small school mentality. People go back to, Ben Davis was a small school kid. He hasn't quite panned out at all. So what makes you think Latham's going to pan out? I'm going to say this. I did not see Ben Davis with my own two eyes. I saw Jamarian Latham with my own two eyes. And it's something where when you see a player for yourself and you watch that particular player dominate, it's a whole different ball game. And I watched Jamarian Latham play. I saw the speed. I saw the athleticism. I saw the pass rush moves. I saw the ability to, take up two blocks, but still, get back there and make plays effectively against the run and chasing down the quarterback. And I think having him along with Timothy Smith and McKinley Jackson, should you bring Jackson in here, is a big deal. But I just really like the Jamarian Latham kid. I think he is an absolute stud. But we're going to go to another break here on the show. When we get back, continuing with your phone calls to In My Own Words. We're coming back.
If you want delicious home-style cooking, sushi, and hibachi, check out Otoro Hibachi in the University Mall in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. At home and you can't get away from the TV because the Crimson Tide is about to score? Don't worry, delivery is also available through Waitr and Crimson2go. That's Otoro Hibachi in the University Mall in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. And make sure you let them know the good folks at Touchdown Alabama sent you.
Had a cool show today. Got a couple of callers in here on a Monday coming off the Super Bowl weekend. Chiefs beating the 49ers 31-20. But still, 31-20. Still upset with myself for not making that little wager I could have made, but it is what it is. We got a chance to go over some great topics today. We recapped the Super Bowl. We touched on Alabama men's basketball taking an 82-78 loss to the Arkansas Razorbacks. Hopefully, head coach Nate Oates and the Crimson Tide can get back into the winning column as they face the Tennessee Volunteers next. From there, we dove into my man Josh Jacobs, running back of the Las Vegas Raiders. Did the NFL get it right? Did it naming Kyler Murray as the Rookie of the Year, was that the right way to go, or did the NFL get it wrong? Did the College Football Playoff Committee hijack the NFL and tell the NFL, hey, that Jacobs guy, don't give it to him. He used to play at Bama. If you give it to him, it's going to make us feel bad because we dropped Bama to 13 in the college football playoff. So if the playoff committee hijacked the NFL honor ceremony and give it to Kyler Murray, did the NFL get it right with the NFL Rookie of the Year? Did they get it wrong? Was Josh Jacobs snubbed? We got a chance to touch on that. From there, we dove into the defensive alpha personalities that need to emerge for the Crimson Tide in the upcoming season. And then last but not least, we touched on one Bryce Young. Can he unseat Mac Jones and be the starting quarterback for the Crimson Tide? We shall see. A spring ball right around the corner. And we got a chance to talk with you guys, the Alabama football fan base. As always, you download the Touchdown Alabama magazine app. People, invest in yourself. Do the right thing. Spring ball right around the corner. You want to be the envy of your friends. You want to be in the know of everything. If you want to know what time Nick Saban sneezed, you download the app. You can get the app via the iPhone App Store if you're rocking Team Apple, Google Play Store if you just so happen to have the Android phone. If your audio listening pleasures happen to be iTunes or Apple Podcast, Google Play, Stitcher, Spotify, Overcast.fm, iHeartRadio, whatever those may be, we got you covered right here on In My Own Words. When we come back on Wednesday, we do the same thing again. We talk Crimson Tide football. We'll dive into an interesting conversation. What will it take for Alabama to finally get a good kicker? We'll touch on that on Wednesday, and we'll also bring Justin Smith in to do some recruiting, as Wednesday is National Signing Day. We'll get into that recruiting news. But as always, people, I leave you with these things. Husbands, love your wives. Wives, love your husbands. Children, get that homework done. Get you 3 hearty laughs a day, 3 hearty meals a day. If the good Lord sees fit, I'll be back on Wednesday. But until next time, holla at your boy. Peace. Come on, work.